And welcome back to another edition of the Graveyard Shift. Is this an instant reaction? Kind of. Whatever. I'll decide when I upload the episode. But we are doing this as the NBA draft is going on. Time of recording, we are through 16 picks. The Grizzlies have just traded the selection they just made of Bennett Sturts at 16th to the Thunder for uh, two second round picks there. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll talk plenty about Memphis, I'm sure. I'm your host, Will McBroom, joined by my panelists tonight, Cole Smith and Jake Scaringella. Uh, and we'll just start from the top here. The Washington Wizards, a little bit of drama maybe throughout the process of who they'll take, but not really. It kind of felt pretty set that it was going to be AJ Dybantsa the whole way. Uh, it would have been the most Wizards thing ever to, not do that and overthink the obvious, but they didn't. They get Dybantsa, get their guy. Jake, I'll throw it to you first here. Just thoughts on what he can do in Washington and just on the Wizards doing the right thing, in my mind at least.
Yeah, no, I think the only person in the entire world that thought AJ Dybantsa wasn't going to be the number one overall pick was Darryn Peterson. But I think this is clearly the number one choice in this draft, especially. And I mean, we can also talk about just how deep this class is and how great it is for college basketball that this is such a deep class and all these guys at the top. You got four guys in this class that in any given year could be going number one overall, especially in recent years where we haven't even seen a lot of guys coming out being drafted from college basketball. But now here you've got guys like AJ Dybantsa and all these guys that we're going to talk about now tonight. But Dybantsa among this class is clearly the player that I think you'd be the most scared of as an opposing team. Like you look across the court, you see that guy. He has got it all. He can do anything to you on any given night. Just a crazy scorer. Obviously, the leading scorer in college basketball this past season, 25 points per game. But truly, among this class, the most five-tool player that there is, I would say.
I'll throw it to you on the Dybantsa pick, and I mean what the Wizards have now, because as much as, the Trae Young contract, which we'll talk about later, isn't being widely well received, it is still the Washington Wizards. They now have Trae Young, Anthony Davis, and a number one pick in AJ Dybantsa on their roster. That is a pretty young team. They actually have some reasons to be optimistic about, which has been lacking in DC. Just your thoughts on all that.
I think on paper, this is the most complete team Washington's had in forever, since like the 70s, I feel like. It's just they've never really had the pieces together. And I don't trust Trae Young's health. I don't trust Anthony Davis' health. But with the Bonsa and Sar, I think definitely just having a young core really helps out. And Debonsa is a generational player. He can five-tool athlete, can really do anything. It's from deep, he's not the best, but just I think scoring wise, he's amazing. Defensively, he's great. He's a good playmaker. I definitely the right choice at number one. Peterson, I agree with Jake. He was the only person who didn't think Devonta was going to go number one, but definitely the Wizards are a more complete team, and he's going to be a bucket for them for years to come.
Yeah, and I think it's great for Dybantsa too that he's going to be in a spot where he doesn't have to do what, especially near the end of the year at BYU, he was doing where he's just carrying the team. You have the Wizards in that position where, like a bunch of other teams, they were tanking and, putting out a worse roster than they actually had by the end of the year. But he's going to come into a spot where he's not just forced to do everything, right off the bat on the Peterson front, because as you mentioned, he put on the face of, hey, I will only meet with the Wizards. I'm going first overall. I'm the best player in this draft. Seems like a lot more just bad advice that seems to just continually come from his camp. I don't want to make a snap judgment on, him as a person when it does seem like whether it's agents, parents, whatever, nobody seems to have his best interest in mind or know a thing about how to communicate that. But he did have, I believe it was Shams was on there discussing, a meeting with the Jazz prior to the draft that was kept under wraps, where basically he, said he was all in on, playing for Utah. So a little bit different than when they heard Ace Bailey say, I don't want to play there, and then just took him. But on, if you, look at the high school tape, if you look at what everybody said coming into college about Darryn Peterson, elite sort of prospect, some decided to compare him to Kobe Bryant for some reason, but I crazy athleticism. He didn't show that very often in college. Even when he was actually out there playing, he wasn't going to the rim. He wasn't being aggressive. It was a different style, and there was a lot of reasons to be concerned, especially when, he's being asked about, when was the last time you were 100%? And it's like, oh, the Texas Tech game. It's like, well, it didn't look like it at any point. So, a lot of reasons to be concerned. Jake, throw it to you first here. Darryn Peterson is now a Jazz. He is a Jazz. He's jazzed. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That always bugs me with the White Sox too, and they're like, "Hey, as a White Sox, it's like not even a White Sox. It's like I don't know. It just those in the Magic too. I don't know why these are the teams that I'm fans of, but no, the Darryn Peterson situation is just such an anomaly. I'm not like it's so difficult to know what to make of it. I'm finding myself thinking not very highly of him all season long, even though he came into the season, obviously, like you said, in high school, the 5 star, all this stuff. Even now, he's listed as the overall number one player in this draft, even though obviously he went number two. But just because of the amount of time that he's missed, and even when he's on the court, not really looking like at least to me, a guy that wanted to be there in his 1 year at Kansas. Maybe, I don't know if he was looking ahead. Obviously, like we said, he certainly thought he was going to be the number one pick. So it's just really tough to sort of get a read on this whole situation and how he's going to turn out because obviously the talent is there, the skills are there. Like you said, the sorry, not the Kobe Bryant comp. I've also heard him be compared to Derrick Rose, and I feel like that's almost more apt, at least in terms of
I
necessarily
like that one
maybe
more.
not the
Yeah.
longest NBA
Yeah.
career that we're gonna see. But no, it's really, really interesting. I'm excited to see what he's gonna do in Utah. And like they say, I don't want to just repeat what everyone's been saying, but the best ability is availability, and that is clearly the biggest question mark in Derek Peterson's game.
Yeah, and I mean, on the what he was saying, eventually after the season, they come out with like, oh, he was taking too much creatine and it was causing these full body cramps. That's not true. Like, it's
Well,
not.
if it is, it's like what? Okay, well, what? Like, what's going on? I don't understand. I just
Yeah.
don't understand any of that.
But like anybody around the league is saying it's just not what happened. And it seemed like I even heard the idea that, there were times when because I don't think he was 100% at, a lot of the points, obviously, but there were times when it seemed like he would go out in term to not look worse than other guys he might have been playing against in that spot that were also hitting the NBA to not. And I mean, when you have Bill Self coming out after games where he's like, "Yeah, we thought he was going to be able to play," like you have your coach who can't even come out and give the coach speak defense of you at that point. Uh, you leave people with no answers. So I mean, if you're Utah. I don't think I would have when you have, the amount of prospects you have in this class, whether you wanted to trade down or take a different guy in the spot. But uh, they decided to go for it. Cole, I want to throw it to you too on Peterson.
I mean, if you're Will Hardy right now, you're looking at Pearson's potential and the spacing he provides for the Jazz. You have Jaren Jackson Jr., Larry Markkinen, and just seeing those bigs out there, and even Walker Kessler, you need a guard to kind of facilitate that offense and get something going with that young core. So I understand why they didn't trade down, they took Peterson, but there's too many ifs with him. I feel like, yeah, the health issues, the weirdness of just his weirdness preceding his way to the draft, everything just felt off. And I feel like this is just how the Jazz are, is they just have players that are just off. But I think just shooting wise, he's amazing. I just don't know if he'll pan out like how Dybantsa will.
Yeah, over the last couple days, I was really starting to convince myself that Utah was going to go with Cam Boozer and sort of shake it up, and I was really looking forward to doing this podcast and reacting to, oh my God, Darryn Peterson didn't even go top two, and like what the whole domino effect of what would happen there. But obviously, we didn't have to have that conversation. But with Cam Boozer obviously going number three to Memphis.
Speaking of that, yeah, Boozer goes third overall. This was a weird one because I think a lot of people see Boozer as having a, higher floor and maybe the lowest ceiling of the three guys or of the four guys who were in the top four there. I've not been the absolute most fond. It's a matter of perspective too. I'm talking about, versus like Dybantsa, Caleb Wilson, those guys. I've not been the biggest fan of how Boozer might end up translating. I don't know that he's a game changer, especially that a team like Memphis needs, where, you've got Cedric Coward and Jalen Wells right now. You're not exactly building around much of anything. Uh, but like I said, also, you're not putting yourself in a situation. if you're the Grizzlies, where, it's just gonna be, oh, well, that, what Darryn Peterson could be, where it's like, well, that failed miserably. I feel like the, worst outcome is like, well, he ended up being a fairly solid player. There's nothing, all NBA. He's not exactly, he's a top 100 type of guy. He's a good starter. I think that's kind of the floor there. Cole, I know you're not super fond
I'm
of
not high
Boozer
on
either.
him.
Yeah.
I mean, I am biased because I saw him play against Florida State multiple times. But in those games, especially in the ACC tournament, I felt like he was just off. In the
We were
ACC
just locking
tournament,
down.
yeah, in the ACC tournament as a whole, I think he was Duke's leader, and Duke as a just looked terrible. And I think he was the key reason behind that. And we have seen his flashes of brilliance. And I mean, he was number one overall at some points this season. It's just, I think it's kind of just been all hype with him just because of his potential. But I agree with you. I think like his floor is a really good role player. It's just I don't think he'll reach the potential of Peterson or Dybantsa. It's just I think he'll be solid and nothing more.
I This is really interesting because covering the ACC tournament in Charlotte and being in interviews with Cam Boozer, I he just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Just at like I don't want to say as a person, but just the like some of his responses, they just sort of bounced off me in a way that I didn't respond very well to. However, somehow it sounds like I'm highest on him of the three of us. I think that honestly, I think he's going to be pretty good. I think it's a great pick for Memphis, especially getting someone like this at number three. Seriously like his physicality and his size, and just, I mean, he showed flashes of being able to, with some 3-point range as well. But what I really like is how, yes, he didn't really show up in both those games against Florida State and a bunch of other points throughout the season. But in the big moments, there were many, many times where he just sort of took over the game. There was the game against TCU where he just absolutely dominated. And then when they were down big in the second half, and then also that semifinal game against Clemson that I got to see, I was like, this guy is just different. I mean, he's clearly better than everyone on the floor, and obviously competition and the talent he's going to be playing against is going to be way different in the NBA than it was in the ACC. But hey, ACC's back, so never know. But I do think that Boozer is. Do think this is a good pick, and I think that he is probably going to have a decent NBA career.
I just wouldn't want him as the guy leading my team after John Morant. I think that's just going to keep Memphis in purgatory. I don't think he's the answer there.
I mean, Memphis is just always going to be in purgatory. Like, come on. It's the
Uh,
Grizzlies. They had 2 or 3 years of, oh, this team can really start to challenge the Warriors, and then they disappeared before the Warriors, were even had even faded to the point that they're at now. It is what it is for the Grizzlies, unfortunately. Fourth overall, Caleb Wilson. I think the Bulls were kind of in the best spot here, considering, you make your way into those top four picks, and you're not really under any pressure to do anything. You've got the top four guys, and it's like, well, we think we have an idea of who we're going to get, but if one of those other three guys falls to us too, it's not like, oh, now we have to draft Boozer because they took, it's kind of, you're kind of just able to sit there and take whoever. They end up getting Caleb Wilson, who I think uh, is just maybe my favorite player. Just not saying that he was the best, but I love his upside in this one. I love what I saw from him at North Carolina. I wish he'd, been able to play at the end of the year there, but I think it's a great pick for Chicago. I think it's another spot where it's a reset situation, but it's not, an awful one. You've got Buzelis, who you picked up, who they're very high on. You've got a lot of guards, who are just kind of hanging around out there. You went and got Nick Claxton in a trade that we'll talk about, which you got him for nothing, legitimately. Uh, but yeah, I think bringing Caleb Wilson in there, I think he's got a super high ceiling. Jake, I want to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, this is clearly, I mean, the Bulls were definitely in the best spot, I would say, sort of just getting to sit back and let, the top three sort of duke it out and figure out where the top three guys were going to go. And like you said, your worst case scenario is ending up with Caleb Wilson, which is absolutely a phenomenal get, especially at number four. Easily could have been the number one overall pick in recent draft classes. Uh, but I mean, yeah, it's a shame we didn't get to see more of him on the court, especially or at UNC, especially at the end of the season. Didn't get to play in the NCAA tournament, which really sucks. But it is an interesting situation for the Bulls. Not exactly a like rebuild. This is the new centerpiece, but I do certainly think he's probably going to be the new face of the franchise. And especially I don't really like the
Oh,
comparison necessarily, but they were talking in that interview they were just having on ESPN with Caleb Wilson and Cam Boozer how top pick from North Carolina to the Chicago Bulls was Michael Jordan, and it's like, well, yeah, probably not, but still, this is certainly a very, very good pick for the Bulls. Caleb Wilson, a lot of room to grow, I would say. Certainly a young player, and like we said, not necessarily a lot of time on the court in college due to those injuries, but the tools are there, the skill sets are there. They just got to get him to grow.
yeah, I think he's one of the best dunkers I've seen in college. It's a shame that he broke his hand, but I mean, just seeing him play was special. And I think it's really good for the Bulls to get him right here. They no longer just have a collection of guards anymore. They really have some forward momentum now. And I really just think Thiago Splitter can make this team into something and really establish themselves in the East, especially with it being kind of wide open now. Just the Knicks really in their way. But I think Chicago is going to be they're going to be special this season. I don't think they're going to be great, but Caleb Wilson will definitely be on the forefront of their rebuild.
I mean, the Bulls sit back and get number four, and they sit back and just stumble into Portland being stupid and giving them a great head coach too. It's really, it's a hell of a thing. I mean, you get Splitter because Portland won't pay a normal salary to a guy who their head coach got arrested by the FBI after a game. And Tiago Splitter just came in and got them to the playoffs and got them a win over San Antonio too. Like they weren't a pushover team, they were competitive. I'll never understand that. I'll never understand how Tom Dundon got a title with the Carolina Hurricanes either. I don't know why good things happen to bad people. But fifth overall, there was a lot of buzz about this pick possibly being traded because, the Clippers having Darius Garland in a guard heavy draft, it wasn't necessarily a complete need. They end up keeping it. They get Keaton Wagler. It's been discussed often. The guy who was just forgotten about, not in the top 150 of any of the recruiting rankings. Now he's the fifth overall pick, and a guy that we're just going to keep talking about how great this draft is. Wagler could easily be a second overall type of guy in a lot of different drafts. Like this is just a special draft that the Clippers end up getting him at five by way of Indiana, who were just shocked that, the pick that they traded and only had a 50% chance of keeping ended up not going to them. It's unbelievable. But Jake, do you think this was the right move for the Clippers to just stay here and get Wagler?
This was the first one. I mean, obviously, we pretty much knew how the top four was going to shake out, and this is where it got a lot more interesting, especially with the four guards that went 5 through 8, and this could almost be in any order. This surprised me. I was really expecting them to go with either Michael Brown or Darius Acuff, who is my favorite of these guards that went in this stretch. But I love Keaton Wagler as a player. I thought almost the entire season that he was wildly underrated, even though, like you said, he could have gone second overall in another class. I didn't see this coming. This one really actually took me by surprise. I'm not fully locked into what the Clippers really have going on as a team. They're one of those ones that I just don't pay any attention
I don't
to.
blame you. I think they needed someone who was going to be able to play off ball. But if anything, I would have just thought they would have traded down. I mean, I know early in the process when it seemed like Acuff was almost like, not in that top four, but was like pretty firmly in that fifth conversation. It seemed like they could just trade with the Kings, just pick up something and let Sacramento go. I mean, usually if you call Sacramento and ask to trade, they'll just kind of say yes. They don't really think things through. But yeah, I was surprised. I felt like that pick could have gotten some value for him to pick something because they're in a weird spot. They're not rebuilding at all because they just picked up Garland. They still have Kawhi. Nobody really knows what's going on there. It'd be nice to have an answer on that, I'm sure, for them. But it was surprising, but I understand why why they went with him if they were going to keep that pick, I guess.
Yeah, such a high upside player, and like I said, I thought all season long he was one of the most underrated in the entire country, let alone in this class, in this freshman class of guards, especially. And obviously, we saw what he was able to do, getting Illinois to the Final Four, and just the incredible run they went on at the end of the season, and how big a part of how big he how jeez how big of a part he played in that run that they made. Absolutely phenomenal player, but I really didn't see that coming. I thought they were going to go with one of these other guards. So shout out Keelan Wagler. excellent. I mean, getting picked in the top five, especially in this kind of class, that is phenomenal work, especially after not being ranked or whatever that was, right? Top 100, not
Top,
being ranked.
yeah.
Yeah, coming out of high school.
I think yeah, sitting behind Darius Garland too just really makes his upside even higher. I think he has time to develop in LA, not kind of be rushed into things. So I think really good pick by the Clippers.
Brooklyn picked Michael Brown. Um, like with a lot of guys, there's a lot of upside. This is another guy though that while everybody was looking at Darryn Peterson, it was like, oh hey, that guy at Louisville is also kind of seemingly choosing not to play. With him, it felt like kind of I don't really care about college basketball, which I would just think if you agreed to go play for a team, you would try to do that. I don't know. It's Brooklyn, so who cares? I don't
Yeah,
really
they don't
think.
care about basketball either,
Yeah.
so
I don't think they care. They don't have fans to care, and I don't think their organization really cares if players play. So, why not just take Michael Brown? Uh, but I don't love it. Well, especially when you have Acuff right there. I don't understand that. I think Acuff's going to be a way better player, even considering Brown's upside. I just like Acuff a lot more, but they did it, I guess. Jake, your thoughts there?
I mean, yeah, even though, like I said, I sort of expected him to go number five. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm not really sure why I really thought that. I mean, you seriously, you almost can't go wrong. It is just the upside with Michael Brown. Again, like I called him back in March, like one of those players that can literally put up 40 points at any given night. But like you said, he just didn't really seem like he wanted to play college basketball. Um, and I mean, Brooklyn, does it really matter? Like, is anything they do ever really going to pan out? No, I don't think so. Uh, I'm really more looking forward to talking about the next two guys that went and where they went because those are some pretty big gets, especially down at 7 and 8. I mean, this again, I don't want to just keep saying the same thing over and over, but the depth of this class is absolutely remarkable. But yeah, Michael Brown, super high upside, good playmaking ability, but I mean, what's he gonna do on Brooklyn? I can't imagine it's gonna make that
It's
much of a
gonna
difference.
matter. Yeah.
uh, him, Julius Randle, and Michael Porter Jr. are not going to be.
God.
They're not going to be doing much to the
Oh.
Barclays Center.
I mean, you won't catch. I don't think you could force me to watch Michael Porter Jr. and Julius Randle share a court. Like that's just I don't want to. I we'll talk more about Brooklyn's trades here in a little bit too when we get into that part. But I mean, if we feel like it, I guess again it's Brooklyn. But yeah, the next two picks are probably they're two of my favorites in the draft for sure. A Cup to Sacramento. It is Sacramento, but you know, what we've seen is they do draft well, and then those guys just get to go somewhere else and do well there. A-Cup's going to be fantastic. I think he's going to be an incredible player. I am, like I said, shocked that nobody just traded up with the Clippers even a few spots at five. I'm even more shocked the Nets didn't get him at sixth. You want to talk about taking over a game? That's all this guy did at Arkansas. It was amazing. We've seen how John Calipari develops these guys too and turns them around into great NBA players, and then also Kingston Flemings to the Hawks. Uh, I love it, especially for a team like the Hawks that are very, defensively oriented too. You get a two-way guy like that who can play, I think can make an impact pretty quickly there. Both of those guys. I'm not going to stop gushing over this draft because it's just amazing that, like you said, Jake, those guys are 7 and 8. So, yeah, easily two of the best ones in the draft to me. Jake, take it away.
Darius Acuff, along with Tyler Tanner, who I'm so excited is not did not declare for this draft and is going to be returning to Vanderbilt for this season. They became my two favorite players to watch by the time it was all said and done. I mean, like you said, his ability to take over a game, and especially the games they were playing, going all the way to the SEC championship in the tournament, and I mean, just phenomenal, phenomenal player. There's not enough that can be said about Darius Acuff, and again you were disappointed when it happened that he ended up in Sacramento of all places, but I I think Darius Acuff is the type of like for example, Darius Acuff went to the Nets. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh wow, are the Nets gonna like that's the type of guy that can turn your franchise around just with his pure just like we said again, ability to take over a game, and that just I can't say enough about that. Just absolutely phenomenal player, by far the most I think probably the most entertaining player to watch in this entire draft.
Definitely. I think him going, Acuff going to Sacramento just really helps out the Kings, just especially being younger. Sabonis and DeRozan aren't getting any older. And
Yeah, I think the rest is
they
supposed to be
need
gone
youth.
finally. Yeah, they don't have anybody. They got Reno hanging out there. I mean, is Sabonis really? They're gonna imprison him there for even longer. He's just been
Is
forgotten
Malik Monk
about.
still there?
I think Malik
I
Monk's
would
still there.
imagine. Yeah,
I
I
think
think
Yeah,
he's just
he's there.
permanently stuck there as well. I think it's NBA prison.
It is.
Westbrook's still there for now.
I forgot
Uh,
what Westbrook was on the Heat.
De'Aaron Fox is still there. They just have him on like
He's
parole in
spirit.
San
Yeah,
Antonio.
they should send him right back there.
Yeah, he never left Sacramento.
Any skill that De'Aaron Fox had at basketball was left behind in Sacramento. Clearly was
Yeah,
not taken over to San Antonio.
Clutch player of the year. Incredibly fraudulent. Like, oh my God, I've done enough. I've said enough about De'Aaron Fox. I don't need to get back on that. He's taken the mantle of one of my top three least favorite players. Well, Rozier doesn't count anymore. He's in prison. Top two least favorite players. So, uh, on the Flemings front,
I think.
Oh, you can go.
Yeah, the Hawks just always surprise me. I think they've really picked well. Besides Shea, I mean, I think they're no playoff minutes and just I hate Shea, but I think the Hawks are really on the up, especially with how they've done nothing for forever. But I he performed well in college, get a good score, just contribute to the young core in Atlanta, and I think Atlanta can really grow in a wide open East. Besides the Knicks, who knocked them out in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I mean, if to be a NBA playoff team and manage to draft Kingston Flemings in at number 8, that is just absolutely remarkable.
New
Uh,
Orleans is so stupid.
yeah, I still can't really get over the fact that Indiana doesn't have a pick. I thought that was kind of like the whole point of just I don't know. We can cut all that, but like that just still shocked me. I that's just ridiculous. I anyway. But no, to go from being in the playoffs to drafting Kingston Flemings to join your team is absolutely remarkable. And like you said, Will, being a defensive oriented team like the Hawks are and getting a guy from Houston, no less, the best defensive program in the nation, someone that is truly a two-way player, which you don't see a lot of in the NBA. And I think with Kingston Fleming's game, it is certainly going to translate how he goes to both ends of the floor without skipping a beat. I mean, just phenomenal, phenomenal talent. And again, adding someone like that when you're already in the playoffs and the only team to have a series lead on the NBA champion Knicks, obviously, quickly evaporated in probably the worst game anyone's ever played ever. But but I mean, this is a phenomenal pickup, and like Cole keeps saying, wide open East, which you can talk about those Miami Heat later. But
Hey,
I think there are
This
certainly
season,
a lot of teams with a lot of upside in the East, especially when they're adding pieces like this in this draft tonight.
yeah, and I mean, I heard him talk about on CBS earlier today. I mean, Fleming's maybe the most impressive thing about him is that he's a freshman who started right away at Houston. Like that's not something that you see very often. And Kelvin Sampson just said, made a comment about he knew right away that Flemings was going to be, the best player on that team, and that just to be able to stand out that way that quickly is that the Hawks are a team that I think. They feel like, if we harken back to the wonderful Heat play-in season where they went from the 8 seed to the NBA final, they feel like that kind of team where, regular season they're hanging out, around let's say the 7 seed or something, and then they just sneak past everybody ahead of them. Maybe they get a decent path, whatever. Like Atlanta feels like within the next few years they could just have a run like that with the type of team that they're starting to put together here. Um, I thought the Mavericks would get a Michigan player. I didn't know it would be Merez Johnson. Dusty May coming into Dallas. Jake, you can comment on that some too. Uh, just comes in, gets one of his guys. What do you think about that?
I was really shocking yesterday. I was actually driving on I-10 when you texted me. You were the first person that I got the news from, and I had to figure out what you meant when I was like, "Wait, what happened? What happened?" I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess that just happened." Dusty May, now the new head coach of the Dallas Mavericks, in 2 years, going from coaching Florida Atlantic and 3 years ago, taking them to the Final Four to now being an NBA head coach is just an insane run and also throw in a national championship at Michigan in the middle of that. But yeah, really crazy to sign a new head coach the day before the NBA draft. But at that point, and they were already pretty much projected to go in this range anyway. But it was almost a surefire thing that they would be taking one of the three Michigan guys that were going to go in this lottery. I agree. I wouldn't have expected it to be Mo Johnson, but you can easily see why it is with the sort of player, the type of player that he is. And again, you really can't go wrong with almost anyone in this draft, number one, but also with taking any of those three Michigan guys. Um, but no, it's really going to be interesting. And my last thing on the Dusty May front is I really see him as way more of a college basketball coach. So it's really shocking for me to see him take that leap into the NBA like we saw Danny Hurley neglect to do because that's just the type of like coach that guy is college basketball coach, and that's how I feel about Dusty May. But I can certainly see how number one, getting to draft one of your own players, but Cooper Flag in what would only be his junior year of his college career, but now is his second year in the NBA, getting to go to coach him, that's a pretty enticing job to take. I can see why he would take that leap, and not to mention obviously the money that comes with that as well. But I mean, seriously shocking move. I was surprised to see the Mavericks do that. And yeah, this is also interesting pick with Mo Johnson, but I certainly think he'll find a way to make it work.
Kind of going away from it, I thought it was really crazy that John Shire was their first choice, and then they pivoted to Dusty
Yeah.
May right after he rejected them. I thought that was really crazy, especially since Cooper Flag Shire reunion. That's really something. But
Yeah,
I'm happy.
that was
Yeah,
surprising to me too. I mean, I guess that is kind of the thing is get Shire back with flags, stuff like that. But also for your first two candidates right away to be college coaches too is interesting.
that's yeah.
I don't love that approach. I mean, again, I think, you know, we've seen it work out. I feel like more often than not, you see it in across sports, really. I think college to professional and vice versa. I mean, Bill Belichick is the best coach in the NFL. He can't figure out college. It's
Listed
not.
15th on the top six of the 16 coaches in the ACC this year. Bill
They
Belichick.
I think
they
Bill
put
O'Brien was behind him,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
Bill O'Brien. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Third to last. Bill O'Brien was one of the only ones behind him.
Okay, him
yeah.
and I would
We were
assume
two
like
NFL
Tavita
coaches.
Pritchard, who just hasn't coached the team until this year. Like, yeah, I mean, so that stuff just doesn't always work out. I mean, Rick Pitino is one of the best college basketball coaches ever. He was not good
I
in the NBA.
lost him.
You don't see those things translate often. So for the Mavs to not only say, okay, our first option is a college coach who's still relatively young in the game as well. Okay, that didn't work. Let's go after another college coach. It's kind of adding to my doubt that I've placed on Masai Ujiri recently, but we'll see. We'll see how that all goes. I'm rooting for Dusty May. I love Dusty May. I really hope it works out, but I've grown more and more skeptical as I've heard more about it. So,
I
uh,
want to know what Kyrie thinks about this. Just like, is he mad?
I
Like,
want to know what the Michigan fans think about this. Like, how do you, I obviously right now it's probably negatively, but moving forward, how do you look at this guy? Do you be like, I thank you for bringing us a national championship, or like just what a villain in Ann Arbor now for just absolutely just dipping first chance he gets to go to the NBA? Like, I don't know how I would feel about that as a Michigan fan.
I think if they lost in the Final Four, I would be really mad. But he won them a natty. I think that you can't take that back. So, so I would understand it if I was a Michigan fan.
I would say. Now, and there's other stuff I haven't sorted through what all's going on in Michigan because I've heard a bunch of like just random stuff out there. I don't know what's true, what's not. It seems like everybody hates Ward Manuel for one thing, but I I think it's kind of in between. I don't think you can make him a complete villain, like with the fact that he went there for 2 years and you win a title behind, such an incredible team like they did. I don't think you're really clapping for him though when he, takes you this far into the offseason and just says, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna go take the Dallas job now. Like I'm just gonna leave you. What happens to the roster? That's not really my concern. You can obviously they've promoted Mike Boynton. I would expect them to hold on to, a good amount of that, but I don't know. Um, yeah, I think it's in between. I just don't think you can have a team like that was that great, and it's not like he Lane Kiffin them and left them before the title game or anything, but I don't think he's the favorite coach they've had either. So, but yeah, with
Not at
that,
all.
uh, other picks here, I liked Milwaukee's draft a lot. I think Braden Burries is a great pick for them at 10. And then you get Nate Ament. I expected them to do that because of the fact that he is such a project and such a, kind of risk reward guy. Milwaukee's not in any rush. They're not under any pressure right now. They just got rid of their franchise cornerstone in a trade that we'll mention later. But I thought that was a really good draft. The other two Michigan guys, Lindeborg goes 11 to the Warriors. I like it if Steve Kerr would use him. I don't think Steve Kerr will because it's Steve Kerr. And then Adai Mara. What are we doing? Why are we letting the Thunder do this? Why do we just let them have Adai Mara, a guy who I feel like the vibe over the past few weeks was he was moving into that, bottom of the top 10 range. Ends up just falling into their lap. So great. That's just awesome that OKC gets him. Uh, and then yeah, we'll just kind of any other picks beyond that too that y'all liked that we've seen. LeBaron Philon is the most recent one as of right now going to the 76ers.
I'm just seeing that. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely interesting. No, I definitely agree with you with Milwaukee. Nate Ament is one of the guys that I really liked and was I actually mentioned on Tomahawk Talk that he was returning to Tennessee, and I was clearly wrong because now here he is getting drafted, yeah, number 13. But I certainly like it for Milwaukee because he is such a project, and they are obviously, like you said, in no rush, having just traded Giannis yesterday. But what I especially like about it is you're pairing him with Braden Burries, who probably the most underrated guard at this point in this class. Because I mean, he's going number 10, but one of the guys he's not the best at anything in this class, but he can just do so many things well for you that it is just a phenomenal guy to have on your team. As so, you're pairing the two of them together, so now you have not only your now lead guard that you picked top 10, but also a guy that you can work on that has all the talent there, that has all the tools, 6'10", all the stuff. I think that's going to work out. At least, not, well, I don't know if it's going to work out, but certainly a good place to start for Milwaukee, one day removed from trading your multi-time MVP All-Star player. The other one, again, OKC, they now added Ademara and also acquired Bennett Sturts in a trade from Memphis. I don't know why we're letting this happen. I certain the Ademara situation is interesting. I think it has to be. I think it's clearly a reaction to Chet Holmgren's Game 7 performance of now we've got this other 7 foot center that can pretty much space the entire floor. Uh,
It
but
might not be terrified of Wembanyama.
yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing, especially is the only thing standing in OKC's way this year was Victor Wembanyama, and now they're doing everything they can to just blow right on past it and continue building what looked like the beginnings of a dynasty that obviously didn't go their way this year. But I mean, this is just a ridiculous draft for a team that has absolutely been the best in basketball the last couple of years, even though they didn't make it to the finals today. Obviously, love LeBaron Philon, one of those Darius Acuff type players, and also shout out Christian Anderson Jr. to the
I
Hornets.
like it. Yeah.
Interesting pick. Just one of my I mean Texas Tech, one of my favorite teams to watch this year. I wish JT Top. I could have seen it with JT Top and healthy the whole rest of the way, but yeah, I mean, really, really good draft class, and we're not even done. We're number 23 is on the clock. I'm looking at Spike Lee right now
Yeah.
on ESPN. Not sure why, but
Of course. Why not? I I like I want to see where Cameron Carr goes. I really am intrigued by that. I think if he hadn't, which it's weird to say about Baylor, but how it's gone recently, I mean, he kind of got just stuck there on a team that wasn't very good. I'm excited to see what he can do. And then Koa Pete's another guy who's still on the board that really I think should have gone back to college for another year. It seemed like he was a guy who could have benefited and, I mean, who was in top 10 type of discussions before, at the beginning of the year. But Cole, other reaction to picks that you've liked so far?
You guys already said about Ademara, but
Yeah.
OKC getting him, it's just unfair. It's completely unfair. Like I don't mean to like cry about that, but like, what are we doing? It's genuinely he's the Wemby stopper. He's they're gonna put him in there. Just Chet can't do his job properly, so send Mara.
Pablo
And
Torre needs to do an investigation of the Thunder and get some of their picks taken away. I don't know
yeah,
what they've done. They've had to have done something. Let's and stop answering Sam Presti's calls. Let's not trade anything to Sam Presti ever because it's just if he wants it, he's right. Okay, you are in the wrong if you think you have a good deal when you're making a trade with OKC. Just don't do it.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
That
I like the Christian Anderson pick a lot as well. Just Charlotte, they get him and they get Steinbach as well. They're in a weird position where, for Charlotte, where they're kind of making luxury picks in a way. Like they're not without needs, but they were one of the hottest teams in the East down the stretch of last year. Like I mean, you put a guy like Anderson there, I think he can contribute, off the bench right away. Jaden Quaidance, just kind of an oh he's here pick for the Spurs. It's an interesting one. And then yeah, we'll keep coming back just if we as we get more of these picks off the board. We want to get to some of the other trade stuff that's come up as well, though. Uh, Anything significant happen with the last night at any point?
Oh, I don't know. Well, why don't you tell us?
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right, right. I forgot. I forgot. So let me paint a picture of where I was. I was taking out the trash last night about midnight. I'm getting ready to go to bed because obviously there's not going to be any major news that breaks, right? Uh, so yeah, I'm taking out the trash, getting ready to go to bed, whatever. I get back inside. By this point, I've taken my watch off. I left my phone inside. Get back inside. I've already seen a bunch of text messages, and I'm like, oh, damn, the Celtics got him, didn't they? And then I see Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis, not even Kyle Kuzma. Didn't get stuck with Kyle Kuzma, which thank God, because watching him play basketball may have averaged out my joy for watching Giannis. Traded to the Miami Heat for Tyler Hero, uh, Jaime Jaquez, Kasper Siakachonis, Khalil Ware, three first round picks, pick swap, second round pick. I jumped up and down, was jumping up and down through my house. I screamed multiple times. It finally happened. I finally have a reason to be joyful about this team after striking out on every single superstar or even like star player. Okay. Damian Lillard was a sure thing in 2023. Doesn't happen. Kevin Durant, what, eight times? I think they've been the front runner for Kevin Durant. It doesn't happen. Even guys like Russell Westbrook or God forbid De'Aaron Fox when they were on the market, like guys that this team were supposedly a favorite of, and it just didn't happen. Giannis multiple times, and based on all the reporting, because NBA reporters know nothing, all the reporting all day yesterday began to turn to like, oh no, Boston's the favorite. Like Milwaukee likes the offer of Jaylen Brown and two first round picks, which, by the way, was kind of a better offer. If
I was thinking
Milwaukee,
It really was.
like,
It really
I don't
was.
understand Milwaukee being like, well, they wouldn't find a third team. Y'all find another team. You think you can't get more than that
It
for
was the
Jaylen Brown?
Timberwolves.
Like,
The third team
yeah,
was the Timberwolves.
do something yourselves on that front. But yeah, I thought that was a better offer. But I mean, good with me. And when you look at it, people are taking what the Heat did and saying like, oh, now they've depleted their roster. What? Like, first of all, it's the Miami Heat. So we take players like Caleb Martin and make them good, and Gabe Vincent, who fell off the face of the earth once he left here. Okay, but
And Jaime
also,
Jaquez.
yeah, but also like you look at what they gave up. You replace Jaquez with Bobby Portis. All right. You replace, which in terms of what they need shooting wise, actually does give them a bit of a boost there. You replace Khalil Ware with Giannis. So that's definitely an upgrade, even if you're taking the downgrade
I
from
think it is
Jaquez
an
to Portis
upgrade.
overall. Yeah, I think that's safe to say.
I think that's an upgrade.
Tyler Hero was hurt all the damn time. All right, that guy was never on a basketball court. So it's not like you're really losing much there. And then you lose Yakachonis. So basically that's you're pretty much minus one there at that point, and you got an absolute superstar player that you can build around. You can go get role players. You still have a good starting lineup and a few good guys on the bench there. Like I said, you're going to go get other guys. The Norm Powell thing is concerning in terms of, competing right away. It sounds like I'm still not certain. I'm still not on board. I fully with the idea that like Powell's just gone. I feel like they could negotiate something, get Andrew Wiggins like, hey, we'll give you a few more years, just take a little bit less on the front so we can keep Powell here. But even if not, I think Miami was in such a purgatory of just constantly being the play-in team, and even if you'd probably win in the play-in because you have Eric Spoelstra, unless LaMelo Ball intentionally injures Bam Adebayo, and then you won't. Now you're out of that. Like they're not going to be in the play-in next year at the very least. No matter what you think, I feel like of the move, I think it upgrades them enough to where the sixth seed feels like a floor. I think that's fairly reasonable in what the Eastern Conference is right now when you have Spo and this organization there. Uh, but also it's not like they're just getting Giannis for a year too. Even by the least optimistic expectation, I feel like you've got 3 more years of, you know, prime-ish Giannis at this point in the worst case scenario here. I think it's an incredible move. I think, the if he's playing and he's fully healthy, which has been a little bit overstated how much of a problem that's been with Giannis recently. Like before last year, it's not been the biggest issue. There was the one year in the playoffs that was, but I just feel like you've got a top four player now on your roster overall when he's healthy. Like, and then you team him with Bam, you're going to be absolutely elite defensively, and from there you just work from there. So I love
Two
it.
players
We're
better than
back.
Kobe.
What is it?
Two players better than Kobe.
Exactly. Exactly. You got the
Exactly.
best scorer in the league, and nobody even wants to talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
uh, anybody want to bring me down from my high that I've been on for
Well,
24 hours?
well, I can probably raise your high from giving you my perspective as a Celtics fan. I
Oh,
didn't even want Giannis, and then I just keep getting told Celtics are getting Giannis, Celtics are getting Giannis. I'm like starting to believe. All right, I love this. I love this. So I get brought up to like this like artificial high, like, oh my God, we're about to get Giannis. And it all comes crumbling down. And now Jaylen Brown is just pissed at the Celtics. It Brad Stevens, it's probably his first L as a GM, is just not getting this done. And I'm just sad now. I didn't even want Giannis in the first place. I wanted to keep JB. I love Giannis, but God, now I'm just
now you get
upset.
neither. Yeah, now you're gonna get Trey Murphy
Now
and
you get
Herb
neither. Now
Jones.
you get nobody.
Yeah, I
It's
think Bill
really
Simmons
unfortunate.
just gaslit all of us into thinking that the Celtics were gonna get Giannis all of a sudden. I mean, I believed it because again, for the longest time now, it's been a surefire thing in my mind at least that and in the media, the Heat are getting Giannis. Like that's what's gonna end up. This is how this is gonna play out. This is where the storyline is gonna come to an end is with Giannis on the Miami Heat. But again, like so many times before, that's been the case, and then it just doesn't happen for whatever reason. And then again yesterday, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I guess the Celtics are the front runner. We just all sort of seem to believe that at the very last minute, right before it actually happened. I can see why, if I'm Milwaukee, I would maybe take the, slightly less value, I would say, than in not trading him to the Celtics and getting Jaylen Brown because, like we saw with this draft already, like sort of the pieces they're building, I think they're clearly sort of trying to, take a step back for a couple of years and like build something from the ground up, essentially. And Jaylen Brown isn't necessarily the guy to help you do that. I mean, he's going to help you compete right away, but I think that's not necessarily what they're going for. They're sort of going for like the
I just
long-ish.
thought they could have moved him for more.
I
I
think
mean,
so too.
certainly a lot of capital. Maybe it's not the best capital. We got a second round pick and a 2028 or whatever it is pick swap in there. Also 2030 and 31 picks. But I mean, I don't know. It's done. It is what it is. And I mean, they're certainly drafting well tonight, and now they don't have to. They certainly don't have to worry about it anymore. At least there's that. Also, just want to shout out the Hawks just took Zubi for 23, sticking with the defensive trend. I
Yep.
mean, I think that's a great pick, especially when you take into account again, like I said, this is a NBA playoff team. They were in the playoffs this year. They had a 2-1 lead on the Milwaukee, geez, on the New York Knicks, and now they just added Kingston Flemings and Zubi for. I mean, this
I
is
love it.
that's phenomenal. One of the many teams in the East that is at least on that upward trajectory. Like they're the Hornets also. Like that's how I would describe them as just a team that is on the up and they just continue to get better, adding guys like Christian Anderson and Heinz back. But yeah, even with all those teams that have some momentum going, I think the floor as the sixth seed for the Heat is even then it's like I think the floor for them is probably that 4-5 matchup in the East. They certainly have managed to make their way out of the Miami Heat Chicago Bulls Invitational that is the East play-in tournament. But no, I mean
You could
it's
throw Orlando in there.
oh no, see, I was gonna throw Orlando in there, except I wouldn't be surprised if they just weren't invited at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Sitting in the lottery. But which I can't even keep track of if they have any picks. Oh, Cameron Carr.
Cameron Carr. I was
Oh,
about to say that. Cameron Carr to the Knicks.
oh, wow. Okay.
There it is.
All
Well,
right. I like it.
didn't get to play any meaningful basketball at Baylor
Oh, I
this
think he just
year.
got traded to the Lakers.
Oh, well, I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
well, they play everybody, so
yeah, same thing. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that works, I guess. Well, yeah, way market adjustment from Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
Hey, Orlando's got the eighth best odds in the East. Don't be no, wait, ninth. Yeah, ninth best
Yeah, well,
odds.
going into last year, for whatever reason whatsoever, it was the third best odds. I almost
Desmond
think I
Bain.
put money on it. I thought about it. I'm very glad I didn't. And then 3-1 to Detroit, which uh obviously I'm very college basketball pilled, so it's not like I'm really going to pay much attention to the international players. But I really thought I this the Detroit pick that kind of shocked me. I didn't really see them going for a forward, honestly. I don't know. That was just a pick that I was didn't move me that much for Detroit, especially a team like that that was just the one seed in the East. But no, the final thing on the Giannis front is for Miami. You now have Bam Adebayo, who scored 83 points in a game. That's no longer your best player. I don't really care who else you have on that team. Oh, they depleted the roster. Yeah, but they got they got the big two. Like that's I
Yeah.
it really doesn't matter to me. And like you said, they turned Caleb Martin, shout out Nevada, uh, into a good player. So
Yeah,
I'm not worried about it.
and the way Spo runs his rotation, like he's still very much, I know people are talking about, oh, the Knicks played so many players. Spo's gonna have like a 7, 8 guy rotation in the
Mhm.
playoffs. He's not a guy who is just playing a ton of guys off the bench. He'll kind of forget about you and phase you out. So I'm not worried about that. I will say the Eastern Conference odds are kind of weird to me. I would put the Heat fourth, pending what Detroit does. I would assume the Pistons are going to go get another scorer, and that could change my opinion on where they are. I'd have them fifth right now, but like the Pacers are plus 1,200, tied with the
Oh,
Cavaliers at fifth. I think the Pacers are better than the Heat right now. Like I think unless the Heat go get a a way, at least you have to re-sign Powell and then get some better depth to even be in that contention. I feel like people are just forgetting about the Pacers and or acting like Halliburton is just that he's dead. Like I know that the Achilles tear could have some consequences, but he's not going to drop off the face of the earth. Uh,
I
I'd
think the
have him.
questions with Halburn are his just physical health
He'll
due
be
to the
fine.
shingles.
Poor
I
guy.
I sure hope
I,
so. I
I
mean,
feel so
I
bad
love
for him.
Yeah.
that guy. Talk
He
about
doesn't
players.
deserve that.
Talk about players that played their way to being my favorite to watch. Like just
Ah, the
that run.
Halliburton.
The thing with the Pacers, I agree they should certainly have better odds, and I think they're definitely the type of team that they're probably not gonna finish that high in the East in terms of regular season. But once they're there, it doesn't. I don't care if they're the sixth seed, if they're in the play-in, if they're the last team in the eight. I think they can easily go all the way to win an NBA title, regardless of where they are in the final standing. So I think that alone should give them better odds. I would agree.
Well, it's the same roster pretty much as that team that made the run, only Halliburton coming back from injury, and you swap Miles Turner for Zubats, who is so much better than Miles Turner. They've already shown
Yeah,
they own the Cleveland Cavaliers, who will never do anything in the playoffs for as long as Donovan Mitchell and James Harden and Evan Mobley, and just it's a playoff proof
don't bring
roster.
up Evan Mobley.
It's
I
it's
don't want to
amazing.
hear it. I don't
Future
want to hear him.
Celtic Evan
I
Mobley.
don't want
Uh,
Evan
I mean,
Mobley.
they just assembled like three of the biggest playoff droppers. We're like, yeah, let's. Donovan Mitchell doesn't get credit for how little he shows up when it really matters in the playoffs because first three quarters he'll get his 26 points and then exit. Uh, yeah, I don't know why Indiana's below the Heat right now, but yeah, I would have the Heat fourth. And we've seen what, if you can narrow those margins, what having a coach like Spo can do. Uh, God, I'm so glad we beat out Boston for it. I mean, we own y'all, by the way. Still, it's absolutely delightful. Uh, Celtics just to see them in such a rough spot. Watching the Bill Simmons reaction the other day, just trying to flip the script now on like, oh, I don't think this makes Miami a contender at all. I don't like the move. It was just absolutely delightful. I've relished in this as a Heat fan, but that's enough Heat talk. I'm sure I'll do more of it on Tomahawk Talk on Monday, but. Other trades, just kind of quickly, we mentioned already. Brooklyn gets Julius Randle. The Timberwolves are they seem to have been in a perpetual state of slowly falling apart as a roster. They added Ayo Dosunmu, and now they've re-signed him. But you get rid of Randall and actively move down the draft 5 spots, which usually won't draw a complaint from me because I'm a noted Julius Randle hater. But I don't really know they seem to be doing this stuff without really any intention of picking up other guys. Like I don't know what their move is to say, "Hey, Ant, we're building this." It's kind of just been, okay, Jade McDaniels one day is going to be this great player that we think he's going to be, and then now we have Ayo Dosunmu. So deal with that. You got Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert. I don't understand it from their perspective.
Every day we get closer to Ant leaving Minnesota. It's inevitable at this point.
Final
They're
piece for
they're
the
they're
Hawks.
He would. He really would. And Minnesota just baffles me. You have a generational player in Anthony Edwards, and you don't do anything for him. They really don't. It baffles me. I don't get it.
I think it's safe
He's
to
not
say
going to be
they
loyal.
no. I think it's
He's not going to be loyal in the slightest.
I think it's safe to say that they lost the cat trade. I think we can conclude that now. Now that they
Well, I
have
mean, yeah.
DiVincenzo and the 33rd pick to show for it. But the Bulls, my favorite aspect of this trade is the Bulls were just hanging around and just got Nick Claxton. They didn't give anything up. The Nets just gave him to them for a team that did need a center. What no matter what you think of Nick Claxton, they needed help there. So it's an interesting one. Uh, Other than that, what else did I have here? Oh yeah, Trey Young. Yeah.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. Well, I love that the only reason the Wizards had to do, which they still didn't have to do that, you could have just let
No.
Trey Young walk, but the only team that could have possibly been running that market up. And I said it right when it happened, and then them getting Randall kind of proved it to me, just in terms of them being in, hey, let's do something mode. Like, let's get a player with a name that people know. Brooklyn was in on Trey Young. Brooklyn ran up the price tag on Trey Young, and then the Wizards, for some reason, decided to just go ahead and book him. So that's interesting. That'll not end well, but you won't notice it because it's happening in Washington. So uh, other than that, any other draft stuff that we wanted to touch on here that has happened?
The Lakers are picking right now. I think
I
it's
was about to
gonna.
say, yeah, just want to see who this is. Watching on view is annoying, but at least I don't have
Yeah.
to hear out of Silver.
The Knicks received cash considerations from the Lakers for number 24. Hmm. Okay.
He's certainly talking a lot, and I'm again have no sound on, but I'm just looking at.
Oh,
Kareem Lopez got traded to Memphis.
what?
Kareem Lopez got traded to
Oh,
Memphis.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because again, I really didn't see why he would fit in Detroit. That didn't really make any sense to me. But
okay, the Knicks get a guard from Spain.
oh, wait, so Detroit got Ibuka Corey. First of all, I completely missed the Ibuka
They
Corey pick.
do.
I didn't even notice that. But now, okay, there we go. That's a pick for Detroit. That's what I'm talking about. Getting
Okay.
a guy like Ibuka Corey who had a tremendous workload at Stanford last year. Again, probably one of the most underrated guards in this class, especially again, one of the freshman guards in this class in college basketball last year, but who was sort of, swept under the rug just because he was on a terrible basketball team over at the University of Stanford. But again, don't forget, the ACC is back. So, it's not necessarily too easy. But yeah, that's the type of pick I was expecting Detroit to have. That makes way more sense to me than Kareem Lopez.
Where's Terrace Reed going? Somebody take Terrace Reed. Come on.
Here, if it feels like a Adama Sanogo situation, obviously I think Terrence Reed is a significantly better like NBA prospect than Sanogo was, but it's just something about these phenomenal UConn like championship caliber team leading players that just then don't do anything, like don't pan out in the NBA. I mean, even Donovan Clingan. I mean, they were in the playoffs, and he's certainly putting up good numbers. And I don't put Stephon Castle in that situation. That's a whole. That's I'm talking more about like the big men, but it's just weird. I don't expect him to be in the first round pick. Maybe I don't know. Maybe something like Dallas at 30 for Terrace Reed. Dusty May, going from scouting UConn an hour before playing Arizona and then beating them in the national championship to saying, "Hey, come play for me." That could be maybe something, but no, I don't know. It's tough.
All right. So wrapping up, favorite pick of the draft, Cole. Who you got?
I would say, looking at it, Caleb Wilson of the Bulls.
Yeah.
I think he just fits in Chicago beautifully. He's gonna be the face of their rebuild. And even just a lanky guy from UNC who can dunk well. They usually do pretty good in Chicago. I could be wrong on that, but I love that pick for them.
So you took one of mine, Jake. Go ahead and take the other one.
Well, I wanted to say Darius Acuff, but
Yeah.
that's my favorite player in the draft. I'm gonna say Braden Burries. Honestly, I just really I like him as a player. I like his all around skill set. I mean, he can literally do anything you want for you. Like anything He can really do anything for you. And again, Milwaukee just traded their star player, and now they're starting this rebuild with a guy like that, and also bringing in Nate Ahmed. I just overall, in the grand scheme of things, I like that pick most of all. But again, Darius Acuff, my favorite player, and Kingston Flemings again. That actually, I take it back.
Mhm.
Kingston Flemings is the answer. But again, you really can't go wrong with this draft. There's so many guys, like we keep saying.
Yeah, it would be easier probably just to pick out the ones that I don't like, honestly. But yeah, favorite, give me Acuff and give me a special shout out to Cameron Carr of the Baylor Bears. But yeah, with that, thank you everybody for listening to our NBA draft coverage here, some NBA catch up stuff. Go Heat. We'll have more stuff on Tomahawk Talk. Plus, check out last Monday's episode. It was a crazy one. That's about all I can say about that. So check that out. Thank you as always for listening to the Graveyard Shift. I'm your host, Will McBroom, joined by my panelists Cole Smith and Jake Scaringella, and have a fantastic night.